All right, let's talk about a good team then. Who's a good one that you'd like to talk about? Who was impressed to you?
I mean, obviously SK, I think is the one that you go with here, because it's not.
Again, this comes, mate. You could even see this on paper, in my opinion. I actually, when me and Zabatine did Best Damn League Show, I think both of us were higher on SK than most people would be. Dude, I actually think, bearing in mind, I've told this story a million times, so I won't go into it again, but that because I know SK's management and I can essentially just ask them during some of the season, like, why do you do that? Or what was going on there? Like, this is a team that always min-maxes, Monty. They're never, ever going to spend anywhere close to the biggest budget. But you notice how this approach that they take, which as far as I know, Monty, goes like this. You only really splurge on like one or two bigger names and you pay them decently, and then you go with like ERL players or the cheaper ones, or you go with someone who maybe is underrated, like Irrelevant, right? This approach works, mate. Like, look, it's how consistently, yes, because they haven't got the biggest budget, they're never like a top 3 team, but they can have a team that's like a borderline like this, that's like a 3rd or 4th, and suddenly you like min-max the right way with the right big name. And mate, I think they've struck gold on this one. Nisqy is the fucking right name, mate. This guy already looks dynamite again in another team. Is this guy just like the fucking fixer-upper to every team? It's crazy, isn't it? He's like a shot in the arm to every team you put him on.
I think it's just because several factors. Like, clearly he's good. Secondly, he's kind of a selfless player. And then thirdly, he brings in a lot of veteran communication and shot calling. And fourth, he has like a very positive attitude in game. So I think, you know, generally he keeps the mood buoyant and light. And he, you know, especially for newer players, he's willing to make sacrifices in order to enable them, which I think is rare, especially if you're dealing with a veteran player and a rookie jungler. Like, how many mid laners would be like, yeah, I'm going in with you, buddy, right? Instead of dictating the pace of the game. The downside of Nisqy is that sometimes he just randomly ints when he gets big leads and like throws the game. Like, he is kind of a thrower, right? And I feel like the longer he's on a team, the more time he throws. But yeah, like he's definitely a boon to any jungler that he plays with. And Isma has been looking real good. He's been looking so far,
hasn't he? If people don't know, by the way, I actually, low-key, the person I feel sorry for is the Isma guy, because obviously when they brought up the Mad Lions players to the main team and all his teammates, except for the fucking top laner, are there, the reason he didn't get the spot is because they already had El Yoya. Like, it's understandable. Like, it's like if people know in Counter-Strike, the same thing happened, right? In NIP, they had this young Swedish AWP who's pretty good called Nork. And no joke, Monty, this is even how it's supposed to happen. They just came to him one day and said, sorry, mate, but we're getting Device, who, if people don't know, it's like at the time, like the most accomplished player ever at the AWP. So he even said, he himself agreed, like, well, you're right, you should get him. Like, so yeah, I'm off. So the Isma guy can't hate on it. Like, obviously, you'd have to take El Yoya, but man, the Isma guy actually looks good. I mean, sure, everyone, like Peter Dunn said, he's just going to say it's because he's Nisqy's fucking jungler, but at the end of the day, mate, like, you still have to push the buttons. Like, he actually, like, some of his fucking angles were good. Like, this player looks like he has real promise, yeah.
I mean, let's talk about that, because if that's the theory, then why is he good? Why is he good independently of plays that he's making with Nisqy? Like, he had a real clean gank in the Fnatic game when he was playing Rel onto Oscar and right at the start of the game. Like, very clean Rel gank. And sure, I mean, we could talk about Oscar and maybe having the respect to flash that, but he and Irrelevant really got the job done, and that didn't have anything to do with Nisqy. I think he's got some really smooth mechanics. If you watch the way, I think what's impressive is his situational awareness is very good. He is really good at holding abilities, and we see this on his Rel. Like, he's very patient in the way that he waits for a team fight to develop so he can maximize his crowd control. I think that's been impressive to me. He is appropriately aggressive and clean in his mechanical execution and his conceptual execution on some of these dives. He's been a very big surprise, I would say. And I think Nisqy probably helps, but Nisqy isn't the one who's microing his mind in team fights and saying, oh, you should use Magnet Storm now, right? He's the one who's making those decisions, and I think he's been good at that. And just on the history of SK, Irrelevant started too as a player who was fine on Misfits. Like, he was a kind of a late addition, and he was better than a lot of people thought, but he didn't have to do a lot. He was like playing Sejuani in top lane. It was that
remember his job in that famous cynical draft was he is just the tank weak side. That was just his whole job. Yes, exactly.
And you know, over last year, he evolved into being a very good Jax player and a carry player in his own right. And he looks really good. So he has been a success story of SK's player development from his initial. I think Misfits was good at seeing the spark, and that was something Misfits was always good at, is identifying the spark of talent. But SK had to like foster it and, you know, grow the ember, as it were. And now he's looking like maybe the best top laner in the LEC after week 1 of competition. We got Exakick last year, who was flashy early, and then, you know, maybe there were a lot of good ADCs in LEC last year. It was probably the strongest position across the league in 2023. So maybe, you know, he was kind of lost in the general glow of LEC junglers, but he was solid, and I think he's looking improved again. Nisqy is just the gift from God that they probably got Nisqy at such a fucking insane bargain, guys. Like, think about...
You know what the joke is? I'm going to have to figure out what the angle would be. You know how I did a video that I finally promised to make all those years, where it was about how simultaneously the LCS owners are always like, I've had enough impact, but then they're always like, Hootie? Yes, please. And I was always like, bro, you've got it the wrong way around. It's impact that you want, not fucking Hootie. Dude, they're doing this with Nisqy now. Why do all these orcs just happily send Nisqy on his way with his fucking bindle? Like the Incredible Hulk from the 80s, like, no, LEC team, no. Dude, he's even had to go down from Mad Lions, who was a champion in past years. He's gone down to SK Gaming, who's, like I say, is like potentially like a borderline playoff team. We'll see. Why do people kick this guy out? Like, about misses, aside from, yeah, he was in the odd bad international performance, but domestically, he's just money in the bank. Like, he can pretty much guarantee. I'll tell you what, one of the ways I would describe it, a bit like, here's what's funny. Larson does it just with laning, but with his actual like map play, this guy's just a floor raiser, mate. You almost can't be bad if you have these mid laners. Like, they're always going to play their game, and it's going to have like some level of success. Obviously, the teammates will accentuate how much, but when I look at this roster, mate, yeah, it's clearly like a min-max cynical Moneyball-esque roster. But mate, Crepo and them have done a banger job. This looks like, for real, it could be like a dark horse contender if they do well. Yeah. This is legit, this team.
Yeah, it's possible they like BDS it, like BDS did when they made finals in one of the splits last year. Do I think that this is going to be the best team by the time we reach Worlds in LEC? No, but they're certainly overperforming expectations. The real question is, Thorin, how did Nisqy end up on this roster and not on Carmine Corp? Because nothing about that makes sense.
Yes. Well, here's the problem. Obviously, people will say because Sakin's been there the whole time. But I thought the same thing.
Nisqy is friends with Kometo, right? He speaks French.
The obvious angle is, one, yeah, he's got the whole French thing. Two, listen, if you want to heal Bo's soul, just give him Nisqy, mate. That'll be it. Then he'll be the MVP of the league. And then three, even for the rest of the team, wouldn't this be like think about it. You want a player who sometimes can carry top. You're going to play through bot all day long. Wouldn't you want this fucking sick roaming mid laner who plays like TF and shit like that? Gragas, like, it sounds like it's what the doctor ordered, right? I'm amazed they didn't do it to me. To me, that's how you complete the team. Yeah.
He's also been personal friends with Kometo for years.
Right.
I mean, it's baffling. It is baffling how Nisqy didn't end up on this team for synergy reasons, for personal relationship reasons, for
maybe they didn't want to pay
French
for him or something.
Speaking reasons. Yeah, Sakin, you know, it just feels like such a missed opportunity, especially because Sakin has been underwhelming, and maybe Sakin will kick it into the next gear, right? Maybe he can get over these nerves. And perhaps
he ain't Nisqy more. He ain't Nisqy.
It was free, man. And SK can't possibly be paying him that much money. Like, it felt like nobody wanted Nisqy at the end of the season. I'm sure he's making more than minimum, but probably not a lot more. And I think the one complaint about SK you have is that DOS played a pretty shit Bard game, but his Renata was good. His Renata was pretty good. And so maybe DOS is the weak link, but a lot of this was just the synergy, game planning, coordination within game was all kind of strong across the board from SK. So it feels like their floor is pretty high, just as a team in terms of teamwork.
Oh, no, I think so. The main problem, obviously, is how do they win? You know?
Yeah, they feel like the best teamwork team so far in LEC, which is how they've gotten to the point that they are.
They look clean.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.